you added $50,000 to your business in 1 month.
Yep.
Recurring.
I launched, I was like, May 1st, I've been wanting to do it for a while. And you know how like, it's just never a good time. So, especially launch something big and you're like, I'll do it next month. We were moving across country. I've got 4 kids. My husband had just lost his job. He was a strength coach for the Packers. So we were just like in this big life upheaval. And I've been wanting to do it. And I just kept putting it off. And I'm like, I saw the school games and I'm like, okay, like this looks fun, and so I'm, competitive by nature. So I'm like, I'll launch on May 1st. I'll go all in May. So I started talking to everybody and I'll tell you how I sold, but, or how I enrolled people. But I waited till May 1st. But I'd been talking to people that week before, like having conversations, getting people committed. And so I sent out the invites at 8 a.m. on May 1st. I had over $6,000, $7,000 of revenue before 2 p.m.
Oh no!
And because I didn't see that fine print
it didn't even count towards the month.
So it didn't count.
Oh, crazy!
So 7,000. So I was like looking at the leaderboard, and I was like, "Why am I not on the leaderboard?" Like I was like, "Why is this not counting?" Because I saw everyone else like popping up, and I'm like, "What is happening?" And then I saw the fine print, and I'm like, "Oh." Like I was devastated. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, because that's your big push. Like all your people, you warm them up and it's like, boom, the launch.
And it was all in the morning. So it was like, I was like, I'm going to, anyways. And so I wrote Alex on Skool and I said, tell me this isn't real. Like, tell me like that this is, this will count, right? That, and I didn't hear back. And so then I followed up, maybe like I came to grips with it and I'm like, composed myself and I wrote him back and I'm like, don't worry, this is going to make for a really good story. I'm still going to win.
Yo.
Yeah. And so I wrote him that message on May 1st.
And this is the story.
And this is, so I wrote him, so I screenshotted that message and I put it into the community chat, obviously when they announced the winners. And I had sent the same message to Andrew.
Yeah.
Because he was in charge of everything. And so I was like, asked him the same question. And I was like, hey, does this really not count? And so anyways, I'm like, yeah, I sent you the same message. He was like, yep, just found it. He's like, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So, and I wrote it out. I manifested it.
Hell yeah.
So.
But there is something about the games that every single month for every person, it has a weird way of like getting people to do more than they would have expected or that they even wanted to do. Like your month especially, and even this month, is super competitive.
Very competitive. Yeah. Like Alex was saying it was the highest games ever.
Yeah.
So, which I think, again, I'm very grateful for because I think, that brings out the best in everyone. So it was fun.
Yeah. How did you push yourself harder for this than other things?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my entire, and what was hard with what my job is, my job is being an influencer. And so you have brand deals going on, you have obviously my day-to-day. And so I'm putting this on top of it. And I didn't do any traditional marketing. It was just DMs.
Really?
And so I didn't have a landing page. I didn't have a sales page. I didn't send the link out. I didn't post the link. I only used DMs. And so I was up early in the morning having conversations. I would do like normal stuff that I had to do for just, my normal part of this job. And then I would just be up late at night. And I just told my husband, like we both did some manifestation that like right before May 1st. And I don't know if you guys heard of that, the 55, you write something out 55 times for 5 days.
No.
So anyway, so we both did that. He had a goal, I had a goal. And so he knew what my goal was. And I have the actual, like I took a snapshot of it, when I wrote it out and I sent it to my girlfriends that I have like a little, we support each other in goals and stuff. And so I sent it to them on May 1st, or actually like maybe on April 30th, I sent it to him. And so he was like fully supportive. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be on my computer. I'm going to be having these conversations. I'm going to be doing this because this is my goal this month. And I'm going to make it happen. So it was a tough month.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
The DMs, what gave you that idea? And could you like share a little bit more, like some of that sauce for some of the people listening?
Yeah. So, and I actually, maybe I didn't share this in the community yet. So I have a business coach. His name is Dan Martell. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
Oh, Buy Back Your Time.
Yeah, Buy Back Your Time.
Awesome
he
guy.
wrote a fantastic book. And I read it once and then I read it again. And there were so many things. I read a lot of business books, like a lot. Obviously, I've read all of Alex's books. And so it's like doesn't apply to what I do sometimes, like I can take bits and pieces of it, which is fine. I can always get something out of it. But for some reason, this book, Buy Back Your Time, it was like I was like, oh, I could use that. I can use that. I can use that. Like I could apply it to what I do in almost everything. And so I started applying a lot of those things. And then he sold me into his business coaching through DMs. So he has no website for it. He has no sales page. He has nothing. And I've watched him grow that community. I think I don't think he'll mind me sharing this, but he's upwards of, he's had $2 million months just on coaching. And so he teaches within that community, he teaches this. So he basically said, you don't think you can sell in DMs? Every single one of you in here was sold in DMs.
Ha 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 ha, the meta.
And so it opened my eyes to like, just having this personal connection with people as opposed to in all my previous efforts, right? I've had courses, I've had all of these different things. I've even tried other memberships before. I've used different platforms, and all of it was like, is the sales page right? Do I have the right funnel? How does this email look? And I just would stress over all of these crazy things that the perfectionist in me, which I'm sure a lot of us have those tendencies, we wouldn't do what we do if we didn't. It gets you hung up. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I know my value. I know, what this coaching program will bring. I know how I can help people. So I just need to have conversations with people. And that's all I need to do.
Crazy.
And so that's all I did.
Are you comfortable with that now? Do you prefer that over the old school way, I suppose? Yeah.
Yeah. And I like it because I can have so this month, my whole goal was just retention and providing value. And so I didn't have conversations with anyone this month. And my whole goal was just, how can I make this the best community? I have, this coming up where I get to spend a whole day with other games winners, and I can just really nurture the people that are in there. And so basically I didn't have to bring anyone in this month, which I was totally fine with. I didn't, I hit above my goal. And so I didn't feel this pressure to keep up with all these new people coming in. It was just okay, I've got my group. They're solid. They're an amazing community. And so it was just such a relief to not feel like I had to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
And so then, coming off of this month, maybe I will start having conversations again, but I don't feel the need to now.
How beautiful is that? Instead of having sales calls, do you hear the way she phrases I might start having conversations again.
Yeah, that's so all it is. It's just conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of people I even turned down. I was like, hey, I don't think this will benefit you. I don't, because then now you're saving time on the front end. You're saving time on the back end of someone who's not happy.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the group that we brought in was just on fire. And so then the feedback I get from them every day is lighting me up, from the standpoint of I know each and every one of their stories. I know why they joined the group. I know what they're trying to do. I know the pain points they've had, because I didn't just be oh, you want it? Here's the link. They couldn't find the link anywhere. People would be hey, I heard you had this coaching program. And I would be oh, well, let me see if I can help you first. And so I would dive in and have these conversations. And sometimes it would take days, weeks to finally get someone to commit but at least then when I saw them on a call or when they asked a question, I already knew what their struggles were.
Yeah.
So it just allowed me to serve them a lot better too, as opposed to just all these people signing up from a sales page.
Yeah. It's so much more natural that way, and less energy that you're also not following the rules that you had to before everything.
Yeah, because how long would your sales calls last?
Well, I don't even have sales calls myself. I followed the same thing.
Oh.
We just had conversations.
Yeah.
It was just talking to people and getting to know them.
Did you do in DMs too?
DMs?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we didn't do any outbound lead gen at all. It was all through school.
Yeah. So I like to ask really obvious questions. Who did you DM and where did you find these people?
Who did I DM?
Yeah.
So I did reach out to a few people, but not many. What I would do is, because I have a larger audience on Instagram, but again, I was really, in my own way, which I do that a lot, but I was in my own way of do I need I do design, interior design, DIY. And so what I wanted to teach, obviously what I teach is the business of influencing is what I'm teaching. And so I have no content on that, none, other than just doing it. And so to, you know what I mean? It was kind of like, okay, well, I can't really like sell the business of this because you know what I mean? I felt like it was a conflict of interest for like how I show up on
Yeah, if you drop a
Insta-
Hormozy reel on your Instagram, your followers could be like, what the
Well,
heck?
I did a poll yesterday. I did a poll yesterday on if people knew who Alex Hormozy was, and it was like 7%.
Right.
So that's just not my audience. Like
Yeah.
business is not my audience. It's, you know, my audience is, you know, I mean, it's 30 to 40-year-old, you know, women, 93% women, and they want, you know, home design, mom stuff, you know, so it has nothing to do with business. And so I'm like, okay, do I need a whole other Instagram page that's like my, you know, Jennifer Gizzi official, right? That's like coaching and business. And I was like, I don't think I do right now. Like, I think I can just talk in stories like, hey guys, I've been doing this. This has allowed me, you know, financial freedom. This is, you know, my husband got fired from, again, head strength coach of the Packers for 10 years. And that's not a significant, that is a significant loss to our family, right? That's a significant change to have that income and stability to go from that to nothing. And I was able to say, we're good. Like, we're good. Like, we can move wherever we want. We can do whatever we want. Whereas someone else wouldn't have that flexibility. So I was able to organically talk about that and say, because I started influencing, because I started as an influencer, this has allowed our family to do A, B, and C. This is how much freedom it's given me. And now I want to teach other people how to do it. And so I was able to just like go on organically and talk about it in stories. And so I would say, hey, just DM me coach or DM me, you know, just DM me something if you want to talk about it. So I would get so someone, if they were interested, would just DM me the word. And then I would find those and start having a conversation with them.
It's brilliant. It's such a fight that comes up so often. Do you do another Instagram? And are you allowed to talk about this other part that's almost like now a new business?
Mm-hmm.
So did you spend a long time like thinking about that, or?
Probably 6 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a tough one. And
I'm
people
still
go through
thinking
that.
about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's still kind of, you know, if I really wanted this to grow, do I need that? And obviously I've proven that I didn't need it, but it would make it easier. And I do get really lit up talking about business. I mean, that's something that I've, you know, has always been, you know, I'm super passionate about. So yeah, I would say that it's the $1 million question.
I think it's so crazy that you just took your audience on the journey with you, you know, and I love that kind of show, don't tell idea, because there's so many people, we joke about it all the time, who are like, they've got an Instagram page with 300 followers and they're like, I'm going to teach you how to build a great big Instagram page. It's like, well, that doesn't really, you know, there's something missing here. Whereas you've got the proof and you're taking people along in real time on the journey so they can see what you're going through. They see your authenticity. They see some of the lessons along the way. They're like, oh yeah, I could like totally learn from Jennifer because I already am.
Mm-hmm. And that's what ultimately, and again, I think having a coach, obviously what led me to wanting to coach, because I saw how much having a coach can help you with anything, right? If you want to coach to get in shape, to, you know, learn how to make sourdough. I mean, literally, like if you just take someone who's already really good at it and get them to help you. So, just seeing how much, you know, someone like having like Dan, you know, as my business coach, like how much he helped me, even it's not individual, but still just like hearing some of those lessons and being able to ask questions. And so I just think that it was a very natural progression. Like people have seen me grow, right? I have people that have been following me since I had, you know, 1,000 followers, and, you know, before, you know, when I just had little babies, you know, and so they've seen this progression. They saw different things in our life. You know, it's almost like they are part of, you know, our family. Like I do call my Insta fam, right? I mean, I think people think that's so silly, but it's for real. Like these people have been there for a long time and they're invested. And I have such appreciation for that I've been able to kind of, you know, again, have that through the last, 7 years? So I started my Instagram 7 years ago.
And how did you feel really monetizing your audience like that? Because a lot of people feel kind of gross and weird about it if it's not done the right way.
So for me, you okay?
Not really, but we're here and we're loving it.
We're here. As an influencer, I think you have to learn. Obviously, that is your job. And that was my first coaching call. I was like, hey guys, you've got to decide real quick while you're here. Are you comfortable selling? what do you have to what do you have to offer your audience that you're going to grow? Because if you don't get clear on that right now, you're not going to be a very good influencer. So, our very first calls with my group, we're talking about what value can you create for somebody else that someone would pay for? Is the first thing that someone needs to think about before they're like, I'm going to be an influencer and share all the things. And I'm like, okay, but what value are you creating? So I had all these beginners that on my first set of calls that were like, okay, I want to do affiliates, I want to do this, and I want to do Amazon. And I'm like, hold up. I'm like, I'm not teaching you that right now. I'm like, show me what value you have and show me that you can provide that to an audience, even if it's 10 people. And as we grow, then I'll talk about those things. But if you're wanting this just to start posting like links and start making money, this is not the group for you. Like, this is not what I'm going to teach. And so as I've grown as an influencer, I've taken brand deals. I've taken partnerships that I didn't feel great about. And so the more you do that, the more you realize, nope, this is a service that I'm helping people. So with every service, you're going to pay for a service. And when I think about the coaching, it's like, I know the value that I'm giving to my audience, and I know what I would have paid or how valuable it would have been to me growing up as a baby influencer, right? In this like crazy wild, wild west. It's like, if I would have had a coach, if I would have had a community, the big thing is the community. If I would have had a community around as I was growing, going, hey, I had this brand reach out. What should I say? Or, hey, guys, I'm really struggling today. Like, I'm not getting any engagement. What do you guys think about this? Or, hey, I'm about to post this reel. Like, what do you guys think about the first 5 seconds? Like all the different tips that we see, right, that we follow on different pages and the things that we know. Now I've created this community where they can get that instant feedback from the community. And for me, that's invaluable. And I know for them it is too. And if it's not valuable for them, then they're not going to be in it. So I feel great about it because I know how much it's helping people.
Yeah.
But also, again, as an influencer, you do have to be really comfortable selling. And you hopefully get that way by selling things that you're very passionate about and things that you feel good about selling. My back of the mind motto has always been, or at least, for the past maybe 4 or 5 years, once I started figuring things out, was like, would I tell my best friend about this? So when I go to share something, when I go to promote something, I say, would I tell my best friend about this? And would I want her to spend her money on this? And if the answer is no, I don't share it.
So I think that's absolutely imperative that you start with what is the value? I went through that fight that I wish I had. And I spent literally years on the social media trying to start that business. But I'm like, what do I do? Because I got the limelight without the value. It just happened. I got really lucky. But that was actually a double-edged sword because I'm like, yeah, this is good, but what do I do with it? And they're asking for this, but I wouldn't offer it to my friend, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had that would be crazy and crazy good. And just like you're saying, like everything else kind of follows, like the affiliate, so on. But that first step of actually like, who are you? What are you showing up with? That in itself is worth everything that you're bringing to the table. And it made me think too, that if your value and your family is carrying that business, it makes me think about that business model we just talked about earlier, where do you start another one?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like doing what you're saying, not correct. Do you think? What do you think? Because like your own brand and you as a personality is your value that you bring over to the business side. What do you think of that?
I think that internally, when I look at my, like, say, story views, when I look at like what I'm just sharing on a day-to-day, I feel like sharing both is very organic for me. I think where it gets tricky is when you want to attract a new audience. If I want to attract a new audience, that's where I get the struggle of like, do I need a new Instagram page? Because my content is not business. My content, if I'm going to stay strategic with, what my audience is there for, it's design, it's home, it's mom stuff. And so that's where I think stories are, again, as we all know, right? Stories can be authentic and it's your whole storyline, but your content that you put out there to attract a new audience, I do think has to be a little more strategic. And so that's where I struggle.
Do you think that would be more work if you were to do that? Like, it's a whole nother.
It's a whole nother thing. And that's why I decided not to. right now. I think that it's still on, but I'm like, oh, I'd love to do a reel on that. I'd love to talk through this. And I'd love to, and so there's this part of me that's like lighting me up to talk about business more and more and more, but it doesn't fit in with my content right now that I share on a daily basis. And so I do struggle with it quite a bit.
Which one do you like more?
I like business more.
Yeah.
It lights me up a lot more. And
was that always the case?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a serial entrepreneur. I mean, the fact that I've done this for 7 years is a record. So I have, similar to you, like I've had a lot of different businesses. I have always been an entrepreneur. I was actually in the Air Force, which is always surprising to people.
Okay.
But I went to the Air Force Academy because I wanted a really good education. And just, was really just attracted to that environment. And so, wouldn't give it up for anything, had a great experience. But when I got out of the Air Force, I was 26 years old. And I had gotten into real estate. I was already pulling in $100K months as a real estate investor at 26. This was before. So I got a taste of that like really early on, right? Of like, okay, if you just work really hard and, some of it's luck, right? So the real estate boom, obviously there was a little bit of luck there. And then obviously when Katrina hit, I was down in the panhandle of Florida, and then Katrina hit and, your phone stops ringing and everything drops in half in value. And obviously things took a turn. But, I had kind of, again, had a taste of that. And then I went on to, I owned a CrossFit gym.
Mm-hmm.
This is
you
unreal.
have so many things.
You guys are actually really similar.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny? Whenever I was thinking about like, who should we pair like Jennifer with as a co-host? I don't know. Just for some reason, it's like, I feel like Bond would be good. And I know why, because like you guys both just have done everything.
I fell in love with CrossFit before CrossFit was a thing. Nobody knew what CrossFit was. This was back in 2006, 2007. And so I had a little 2-door BMW that I drove around, a coupe, like around Chicago. I was living in downtown Chicago. And I would go to the Chicago Avenue Park, and I would put the seats down, and I had barbells and kettlebells and bumpers. And I would go to work. I had like a marketing job at the time. I would go to work. I would actually in the morning, 6 a.m., I would go and host a workout for free. So I would get all my friends, hey, come join me for the workout. We would do a workout at the track. I would go to work. I would come back at, say, 5 o'clock. I'd host 2 more workouts for free until I had 100 people that said they would open a gym with me, that they would be paying members. So I did that for free. So when everyone says, like, I don't have the money, I'm just like, I don't want to hear excuses. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't. So that was, and I was just so passionate about, CrossFit. And, again, this was when we were drinking all the Kool-Aid. And again, no one knew what CrossFit was. And so I was the first CrossFit gym downtown Chicago. I had got an investor to come and said, I want to be a part of this. And so I put 0 of my own money up. Someone funded it, and I had 100 members that paid on day one. And so that was awesome.
What do you think it is about that separates you from somebody else to get this confidence and this idea and the courage to go through with something like that? It's a daring thing for most people.
It is, but it isn't. You take that example. What went into that other than my time?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So I think some people, when they want to jump all into a business and they get financing, they get this and they get that, same thing with forming the school community. I didn't do anything up front. I just had conversations. And so it was my time. And I think that's where I think a lot of people don't want to put in the time.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to be so passionate about something that you're willing to give everything to that goal. And that is what it takes. You can't be like, I kind of like this. I kind of want to work on it a little bit here and there. So like winning the school games, I guarantee I spent 6 to 8 hours on DMs a day.
Yeah.
Plus my job, plus 4 kids, plus trying to get our house packed up to move across the country.
Yeah, you picked like the worst month ever.
I picked the absolute worst month. And I was just like, in the middle of it, I'm like, why did I do this to myself?
Did you sleep at all?
It was a tough month.
Why,
I remember.
why did you do this to yourself?
I don't know. I think I looked back and I'm like, what? I think just because I had been thinking about it for so long that it was the competition. And I was just like, I want to do this. I've been wanting to do it for a while. There's not going to be a good month, right? We're moving in June. We're doing this in July. The kids are going to be, I mean, I looked at my next 6 months and I went, this is just my life, right? There's not going to be a good time. It's like, we're not ready to have a baby. Let's try next. No, there's right. Never a good time to disrupt your whole world and like bring a lot of work into it, right? And so it's just, if you're passionate about it, it'll all work out. That's what I think anyway. So
how did you manage your personal life and all the business?
He's like asking for a friend.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have much of a personal life right now, other than my kids. I mean, we do football and baseball and, gymnastics and all that stuff. Yeah. So, and I have a really good team, like Brandy that you guys met. I told her about my goal and she's very passionate about business too. So, so she's read all the books and she's done all the things. And so I did have someone that I could go in and say, hey, Brandy, so I'm doing this thing. And then she's like, oh gosh, she knows me so well that I'm like, so this is what we're doing this month. And she's like, okay, let's do it, And so I think having that has been, and, there's incentives, right? So bringing in someone offering, a big incentive, to be a part of that was, I think, super helpful because, she had skin in the game per se. So she helped me facilitate and we figured out how to get things organized. We figured out a really good DM organization system, which I think is gold. So, yeah, I think it's just fun.
So what made you choose, obviously you love it more business than interior design. I would have assumed that people probably would have assumed that you would have opened a school for interior design. What made you choose
Well, I tried that.
Oh, okay.
I kind of tried that. Again, at half effort because I'm not super passionate about it. So I used the community. Are we allowed to mention other communities here?
Let's bring them up. Yeah.
So I used the community circle. And I thought it was like...
Why do I feel like something needs to happen whenever
I know. Yeah.
And at the time, I just thought it was like, I was like, oh, this is going to be the answer to everything. And at the end of the day, it just did not offer any type of like member engagement. So like once I had the members in there, I was like, no one's really commenting, no one's doing anything. And it was just like, it was draining because I'd brought these people into like a design DIY community. And so I was like, had a course, like how to design a room course, basically teaching people how to, design a room from start to finish. And it's a really good course. I still have it. And I was like, okay, we'll do like monthly calls. We'll do all these things. So essentially the same thing that I'm doing now, but it was not successful. And I look back and I'm like, I think it was a combination of a lot of things. One, I think I just wasn't super passionate about it. So when I look at the effort and how I show up and how I am like, when I'm just my members right now, I'm like following them on Instagram. I'm like, checking up on them when they get like, oh, I saw that reel go viral. Oh, oh my gosh, I saw that. Like I am constantly engaging with them. And I wasn't doing that with my other community. So I think that's probably my biggest lesson is like, you've got to be, to make this work, you've got to be all in.
Yeah.
So
what I don't know about you, but like, I think you're probably going to end up making business content. Like based on what you've said, it seems like that's the path. But something I think is really, really interesting that I've never thought about before is that the way that you did it, where you're not posting business content, probably activates and attracts people that maybe wouldn't even have consumed business content in the first place. So because they see you and they saw your journey and like maybe they're not even like, maybe they wouldn't listen to an Alex Hormozi podcast or maybe they wouldn't watch like a Dan Martell reel, but like you've almost Trojan horsed entrepreneurship into them because they've seen that this is the life that they want. And then they're like, oh, how would I get that? And that. So there's something kind of beautiful about that approach as well. And I think you're going to make business content.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're going to do it much more I would assume within that account because you're using the authority. You're doing it, what you're showing, you're going to show. And so you make interior design content and you go, I'll teach you how to do this. And that's authority versus another page. And just my perspective that then you're teaching business by showing that you're teaching business. And it's kind of like losing that power that you have.
I have always wondered that. Like not wondered, because I think that's an active conversation that's out there.
It's a big one, especially right now. If you're in touch, I think we all could agree that there's a big wave of selling business, of teaching business and all that.
But what is your business?
Right. Yeah. Like that question for a lot of those influencers that are doing that.
The perception is hard to get around,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people crack it.
But they're still successful, or some of them are. I agree. Like I have gone through that.
I did all the time. I'll do it too.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I have gone through that in my head a lot of times. Like I'm like, okay, I'm watching this person, but like, what is their business? What was their business that they're going to teach me how to run this business? And so so turning my page into just a business page was also a thought, because 630,000 followers. So that's a large business page, right? Business pages don't have a large audience like that unless you're Alex Hormozi, right? So there was that thought too of just like, you know what, let me keep things easy and just pivot. But at the end of the day, there's no end of the day yet. I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
You're probably like in your gym launch era, if you know Alex's career. Well, where it's like you've like proven yourself in that niche and that niche and that niche. And now you're kind of at the point where it's like, am I going to start to like move away from interior and like start doing business stuff?
And I do love interior design. I love renovate. You know, we bought a house in Tennessee and I'm renovating it, right? And I'm just starting and I document it. That's just what I've done for the past 7 years. This will be the third house I've renovated, like, you know, from start to finish on Instagram. And so I do like it. I mean, I love it. I just love business more.
Sure.
So
I love what Jennifer said about how you launched your CrossFit gym. And that's like a beautiful model for launching a school community. It's like get 100 people in there, get them really excited and be like, hey, you want to join the paid thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. You seem so confident with every choice that you make. It's really impressive.
I mean, there's failures too, right? We're just not talking about that.
Yeah.
But I do think confidence comes from being really passionate about it. Like again, even with the design school that I started, I probably wasn't as confident with it because I wasn't as passionate about it. So I think that if you really, I mean, for me anyway, I've had a lot of passions, but I do think I also think I'm a natural teacher. So I love anyone who'll listen to me, right? If I get really invested in just about anything, if I learn something, have you heard about this? Like, I think you should try it. And this is the results I got, you know, so for everything from fitness, nutrition, I mean, those are the natural ones that are really, you can teach people. And that's probably when it started, right? Is when I started the CrossFit thing. But, you know, also being in the Air Force, right? There's that leadership component that is drilled into you. And so you learn that leadership from the time I was 17. You know, I went to the Air Force Academy at 17 years old. And so you start learning that leadership mentality. And, you know, I think that's crossed over to teaching and coaching. And I think being in male-dominated industries. So that's when I look at it is really interesting because interior design is obviously very female dominated. But when I look at my entirety of my careers, it's all male dominated. And so Air Force, you know, you're talking 90%. CrossFit, I was a regional director for CrossFit. I ended up working for CrossFit headquarters and there was 17 regional directors and I was the only female. So
even look at the School Games leaderboard.
And then I looked at the School Games and I'm like, oh, there's 2 of us. So I think that polar opposite of like the worlds I'm in right now is also kind of pulling me in different directions right now. Not to say that, but you know, there is a difference, right? I think, you know, there is a difference whether or not you want to.
Do you bring that up in teaching of your businesses?
I actually only am accepting female
good. Yeah.
clients right now or students because I think one of the main reasons that I started this coaching community was not necessarily just, okay, I want to teach you to make money and teach you the art of, you know, doing this and the business side of it, which is the main part of it. But I think the true desire and like where I was like, what, pulling me to do this was when I realized that how hard this job was and how alone you are and how you're juggling everything. And as a mom, as a wife, you have all of these things pulling at your attention, and there's burnout. And they're like with any job. But I think that because people do this job from home, surrounded by all of their other responsibilities as a woman, the challenges that I had with that were challenging. And it almost forced me to quit a couple of times. It was like, okay, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, this is the stress, always being on, all of those things, not having any boundaries. And that part of being an influencer is not talked about a lot. And it's only talked about within like your inner circles. And I'm like, why is no one talking about this? And so everyone thinks they're alone. Everyone thinks that they're the only one struggling with these issues. And then so you get a hold of a few people and you're like, and they make you feel more normal. They're like, I struggle with that too. Or, no one has it figured out for the most, not that I know. Because I have a lot of friends that are in similar situations as I am. Not situations, but have similar success in the influencer industry, right? So they have large accounts. They've been doing this a while. And I have friends that have had panic attacks. I have friends that will just disappear for a month. I have friends, and it's because it's hard. It's really hard. And so I was like, okay, if I can help one person, right, and then I can really see how it helped them. I think that'll be rewarding to wake up to every day. And so from what I can tell, it's only been 2 months, and I'm helping a ton of people with those types of things because I'm bringing a lot of that into our coaching calls. And that to me is just as important because you want to like your job. You don't want it to bury you.
Yeah.
But it'll bury you, as you probably know.
As soon as you said the word burnout, I was like, oh, tell me more. What does that look like for you? What did it look like for you?
For me, again, I can push. And so for me, when I didn't want to consume business content and when I didn't want to work, I was like, whoa. That was burnout for me and everything would set me off. So I was like irritable, tired, and I didn't want to work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a weird one. As soon as you just said it, like as soon as you stopped wanting to consume the thing you're passionate about, I've had that happen. And it's weird. I felt like lost, like I wasn't myself. I just lost myself at some point. I was like, oh my God, what is this? And I didn't know how to do it. Like what to do.
I know. You're like,
oh, what am I doing with it? Like it's crazy.
If I don't do this one thing that I'm used to doing every day and thinking about every day, and you're like all of a sudden don't want any part of it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Did it happen just like that?
It happened pretty quick. I would say I was, hide it from myself, I guess, so you push through and you're like, oh, that's just a little bit of stress.
Right.
That's just this, that'll get better. We'll just get through this week. Oh, that brand partnership was just a little, too high maintenance. And so it kind of starts like that. And then all of a sudden, one day I woke up and I'm like, I don't want to do any of this right now.
Yeah.
And you have to. And I'm like, I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean.
How long did that last for, do you think?
For me, I went through about 2 months.
Ooh, that's a long time.
Of up and down. Like I would pull out of it and then I'd go back into it and I'd pull out of it and I'd go back into it.
So what do you think ultimately brought you back up? What was the shining like? If anything, or did it just?
Gosh, how much can we talk about on here? I had some pretty significant interventions. So how much can we talk about on here?
Just go for it.
I was on like antidepressants for a long time and I knew that I wanted to get off of that. And I just have never been a medicine person. Like I just never. And being, again, an NFL wife, the doctor was kind of like, everyone's on it. Everyone takes it. It's just, you guys have a really high stress life. It just is what it is. So I started taking it and it just didn't sit right with me. So I kind of had some connections with like plant medicine. And so weaned off of antidepressants and started microdosing. And that really, really helped me. And now I don't really anymore because, as I don't know if you guys know anything about that, but plant medicine is addictive, counter-addictive. And so if something, so you can microdose and then eventually you need less and less and less, and then to where you just don't even need it anymore. So,
do you mind me asking if, like, you said, well, as a woman in this powerful business arena, did you have a lot of people around you that you could share? You were saying it's really tough and to like talk to people. Do you think that this would have been the case if you had more people like you around?
yeah, I think that, I think when you're in this more public eye, I think people hide a lot of things. And so I think that is my goal, is to just bring a lot more transparency to a lot of this, so I'm very transparent with my group. I talk about everything. And, again, I just wanted a safe space where people felt like they could talk about anything and everything and get their questions answered and not feel like, oh, that's taboo or we don't talk about that. But within the coaching community, I feel more like it's a little more safe there, I think. Whereas, if I were to just start posting everything on Instagram, that gets a little crazier.
Yeah. So do you feel like you had people outside of the business world and outside of the online life?
And yes, I found those people, and that's who pulled me out of it. Yeah. So I found a group that had nothing to do with business, and we have.
You need people who don't like struggle with the same drug you struggle with.
But we all have similar. We all have similar struggles, but all in different ways, right? And so it kind of brings you together through those things. And
We've
so
been talking about this a lot, by the way, recently. So that's why we're like vibing hardcore. We're like, oh yeah.
I think finding your people, and my people were very unexpected. Like there was not, like if you put us all in a room, people would be like, what is happening right now? What is this group? But we started like a text chain, and that text chain gets more action than anything else on my phone. Yeah. And it's just like you're having a bad day, or we'll share, inspirational, just quotes, or, I'm having this, I had this breakthrough today and I thought this could help. Like, I mean, that's, all day, every day. And I think that has really helped me just to be able to have a place where I can just unleash or unload things, just sure. As it comes up. Hey, I'm dealing with this. Does anyone have any advice? Or I'm dealing with this, or, good and bad. I think it's nice to have a place where you can share wins too. Yeah.
It's like the business of life, right? Like you had to create this.
Yeah. You have to find those people, and you have to trust them. And I think that's the hardest part with business and life, is just finding people you trust.
Yeah. So. And that's why I really, really love your group. Like Jennifer's VSL, it's like 40 seconds, like the video on your School About page. I know that you did most of your selling through the conversations in the DMs, but your opening line is just so good. And I love, like, I'm really attracted to, like, what's it called? With or without you energy, where it's just like, you're like, all right, guys, you could do it all by yourself. It's possible. Or you could just come here and like, we'll show you the way. We'll do it together. And I love that, because that's what we want, especially if you have experienced, like all of us in the room have, of like doing that hard path yourself. And you're like, man, if only I was able to like have people around me, if I had found my people, if I had found my tribe or my community, you could have shortcut so much. Yeah. And you could have just like, it would have been more fun just to like do it with like the community at the same time.
It's so much more fun. Yeah. It's so much more fun. I mean, the wins that people are experiencing and having, that community to like cheer them on. I didn't have any of that. I had my husband, who is extremely supportive, but he knows nothing about social media. When COVID hit, he had to train his guys on Instagram. So he had to like release workouts and stuff. And he was like, he didn't have an Instagram account. He didn't know how to post. He was just like, this is hard. And I'm like, I know, I've been doing it for like 3 years. This is hard. He was like, I have a different appreciation for what you do right now. But again, super supportive in all of my crazy goals, but there wasn't that understanding, right? There's not that like true understanding of what goes on a day-to-day.
It's near impossible until you do it.
Right.
Like, it's just how it is.
And that's why I'm so excited, like, for you to even just do this mastermind. Like, you won the Skool Games, you're seeing Alex Hormozi tomorrow, and like hanging out with all the other winners. It's like you guys get to like, what did you say earlier? You just get to let it all out and like brainstorm and come up with ideas and like share. What about you? Like, did you feel like this? Did you feel like that? Like everything. So it's very valuable.
Yeah, this group was, again, I haven't met anyone yet. I guess I've met you now.
Yeah.
But we've had those conversations. I'm like, this is going to be a really interesting group.
Yeah.
Very
They're the
diverse,
best.
all different backgrounds, all different types of businesses, all different ages. Like, I'm all for it. I think it's going to be fun.
It's wonderful. I mean, Skool Games brings together everybody who's like-minded, but so different.
Yeah.
It's its own little like world,
Yeah.
and it's getting bigger and bigger every round.
It's
And-
so weird
Yeah.
because everyone looks so different, but everyone rhymes with each other. And I
Yeah.
haven't quite figured
Well
out what that rhyme is. But
What are your thoughts? What do you think that is?
Well, like Seth Godin's got a great quote. His definition of culture is people like us do things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's a bit of a non-answer, but like Skool Games winners are like the people like us who do things like this. Yeah, maybe I do it for AI, or maybe I do it for home interior, or maybe I do it for dog training or whatever it is. But there's a similar, it's like you're cut from the same cloth. And I think Skool as a wider platform is made up of people who all rhyme with each other in that way.
Mhm.
And that's why I think there's like such a camaraderie that's developing as well as the wider
Yeah.
community too.
Fully
So,
agree.
I think it's, you mentioned leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's people who have been leading before they even knew what leadership was. You know, it's the people who, as kids, they were starting community. It was the people as teenagers who would like send the first text, hey, should we go to the movies tonight? Or, you know, hey, should we all work out together? It's like the initiators. And I think very often those people can feel like they're the only one, you know, in their friendship group, in their family, in their town, in their whatever. And now there's a place where like all those people hang out together. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people who were willing to do it alone if nobody joins
Yeah.
them.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll complain about it a little bit, right? You're
Mhm.
like, this is lonely, but then I'm just going to keep
Yeah,
doing
but then
it.
you get to come on podcasts and talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels so good when you find somebody else who's been doing it alone.
Yeah.
You're like, let's do it together. That's how Goose and I got it together.
Definitely.
It's
So
like,
you
yeah.
guys came from different backgrounds, right? Different things that you were.
Yeah, we're similar in a lot of ways, but we've been friends for long before
okay.
it all started.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Landing the plane, I don't know. I'm torn. I've got two directions, but I think I'll go here. Like, yeah, let's just go here. Like, what's next for you? So you won the Skool Games. You've got the school community. You know, we've talked a little bit about the tension in a way, like the healthy tension,
Yeah.
where it's like there's a new kind of thing emerging. What do you see? Like, that's even on like a short time horizon of 1 year from now.
You know, you asked me earlier what pulled me out of burnout. And obviously I gave one answer. I think the other part of that answer is like trusting the process. You know, so I took a really hard look at like, okay, what do I want out of this? What are my boundaries? What is my ultimate goal, right? My ultimate goal is, you know, to have a joyful life with my family and provide for them and to be able to spend time with them and have freedom, right, in my business and have a business that I love. And so having those hard conversations with myself was the other part of that pulled me out of it. And just saying, no, I'm not going to do it that way anymore. I'm going to do it this way because this way feels better and is better for me, even though this isn't the way I've done it in the past or the way other people do it. And so thinking about, you know, what's next, I am fully trusting, literally, like, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to wait until we have this mastermind because it's everything, right? Like as a business owner, someone asked someone, hey, what was more exciting? Bringing in $50,000 of MRR or winning the Skool Games? And they were like, Skool Games, like, you know what I mean? Like there is no higher value, right, to an entrepreneur. And so for me, same thing, right? Like the ability and the opportunity to come here was so invigorating. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to just see what happens and see like after tomorrow and getting to talk to, like you said, all these amazing people and counterparts. I'm like, I'm just going to see what ideas come up. I really haven't put any pressure. Normally I would be spinning my wheels and trying to come up with it. And I was like, I'm just going to enjoy the community I have this month. And then I'm going to go to this mastermind and I'm going to see what ideas come up and I'm going to go from there.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
Man, I'm so glad this podcast happened. This is the podcast that was like supposed to happen. There was flights missed, there was cancellations. And so I like, even in the middle of all the chaos, I like in my gut, I was like, oh, this podcast is happening and it's like supposed to happen. And so I really appreciate everything you shared. I think it was like super
no,
valuable.
thanks for
Thank you.
having me. Yeah, this
Thank
is
you.
awesome.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
Cheers.
Crushed it.
Yeah.
There'll be a link to Jennifer's school in the description if you're interested in joining that and finding out more. Other than that, yeah, thanks. Were you going to say something?
No, it's just I wish it could go on longer. There's so many more questions. Yeah.
Well, we got
Part
all day
two.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
we got
exactly,
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Oh, we all said that.
Oh, that does cut.